today. And the Yeti, to celebrate the 4 years of the show, created an awesome new layout of TOVG and Completionist merchandise just for you. First up, we've got the Legend That One Video Gamer t-shirt. Celebrating 4 years, the shirt features the shield that represents our 4 channels, the Completionist, the Dex, Super Beard Bros, and Super Scope Show. Want to get fit with Gerard and like fighting games? Then join the hashtag BuffBoys Fitness Center. This shirt also comes in a tank top. Both shirts are just $17, but if you buy the exclusive bundle, you'll get the Legend of TOVG shirt in a special variant print only available if you buy the bundle, and you'll get 1 of 6 collectible art cards from the Completionists artists Carlos and Wyatt for just $30. The art cards are free, but act now, the bundle is a limited time offer. Thank you for supporting Gerard, the Completionist, and all of us over at That One Video Gamer.
Yes! Hey everyone, and welcome to an incredible milestone right here on The Completionist. Now before we start today's episode, I want to say 3 things. 1, I'm sorry I look like a slob. I've been operating on no hours of sleep for the past 4 or 5 days, playing a bunch of games for several videos in the future, and I've had deadlines to meet and I'm exhausted and tired, so I apologize that I don't look as good as I should for you guys. 2, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us for 4 years, for creating content, completing games, and building a dream into reality. Recently, we just hit 500,000 subscribers, and that's incredible. And I can't wait till we hit 1 million. And your continued support means a lot. We're going to be doing a 72-hour charity stream for Alzheimer's in the near future, so stay tuned for that. We'll go ahead and we'll let you know when that is. And third is the status of Season 5. Season 5, every year we have a new season. It moves on the show. Nothing changes but new visuals and slight changes to the show's format. Season 5 is going to be pushed back to January of 2016. Season 4 is being extended to the end of this year. The reason being is that I want the beard transformation to be well done, I want the assets to look fresh and clean, and I want them to be done correctly, and more importantly, I'm trying to work with a little new format adjustment in terms for pacing and fun stuff like that. So be patient, no new assets until the end of the year, but thank you for looking out and being excited for today's events. So now with all that sappy stuff out of the way, I thought to myself in today's episode, instead of having some long-form ridiculous intro sketch or some weird plot device of me dealing with supernatural beings, let's do this the way we do it every single week on the show. Mano-y-mano, man versus game, beard versus souls. Let's do this. It's round 2.
As the developers responsible for franchises such as Otogi, Tenchu, and Armored Core, Japanese studio From Software became somewhat famous with niche audiences. But when they released Demon Souls and the original Dark Souls onto the unsuspecting gaming populace, From Software became infamous. Praised for its varied gameplay, gloomy atmospheres, and spirit-crushing difficulty, the Souls series achieved an impressive pedigree in a short amount of time. For the much-anticipated follow-up to Dark Souls, director of software, here we go, gonna ruin this one, Yui Tanimura, explained that his goal was to retain as many of the successful elements of the franchise as possible. Most importantly, the player's sense of accomplishment when overcoming adversity, and the loose connection that players around the world would feel with one another when they play Dark Souls. But even though remaining true to the Souls series' essence was important to the developmental team, they were also willing to change some aspects of the game to give players a nice fresh dose of pain. When Dark Souls 2 was released for the 7th generation consoles and PC in 2014, it received widespread critical acclaim, but From Software wasn't done just yet. In fact, this year in 2015, they released an updated version of the game known as Dark Souls 2: Scholar of the First Sin. Not only did this update bring the series to the 8th generation of consoles, but it also gave a serious overhaul to the visuals of Dark Souls 2, as well as tweaking everything from weapon and item balance to enemy placement. So, whether you're a longtime Sunbro or this is your first foray into the world of Dark Souls, Scholar of the First Sin will undoubtedly keep you on your toes. Oh, and did I mention that it also comes bundled with every piece of Dark Souls 2 DLC? this game might just be the biggest and the most terrifying Souls game of all time. With From Software's latest release, Bloodborne, having torn up the charts and getting new DLC incoming, and Dark Souls 3 having recently been announced, it's clear that the Souls series isn't going anywhere anytime soon. There's no escaping it. The only way to beat it is to confront it. And mark my words, game, mark them well. I have survived your predecessors, and I will survive you! I hope. The main two things you've got to know about the story of Dark Souls 2 and the Scholar of the First Sin are, it takes place in the same world as the original Dark Souls, but doesn't have much to do with it narratively, and the plot is just as murky and as vague as the other entries in the Souls series. Our tale begins with a nameless, faceless sap who's had the misfortune of being marked with the curse of undeath, which means that no matter how hard this dude tries to stay dead, they'll just come right back to life. It's a bit like Phil Connors, but with less Sonny and Cher. The undead eventually stumbles into the dwelling of a super creepy old lady who gives us some super creepy exposition. She explains that every time the undead resurrects, they lose a bit of their humanity, and that eventually they'll transform completely into a hollow, a soulless creature devoid of memories and emotions, and driven by nothing more than the compulsion to feed on the souls of others. It's a bit like Cher, but a lot less like Sonny. But there's hope for our undead protagonist. The creepy old lady says that the undead will be able to break the curse if they travel to the kingdom of Drangleic, a once powerful and prosperous kingdom that has fallen into chaos and disarray. After jumping through the giant whirlpool of skeleton ghosts, the undead is flushed straight into the land of Drangleic. Our hero wanders into a hovel where, surprise surprise, there are 3 more creepy old-ass ladies. In between laughing in your face and hurling veiled insults at you like a pack of geriatric mean girls, they mention that you're not the first undead to come to Drangleic looking to break the curse, and that everyone else who's tried has failed. After creating and customizing your character, the ladies give you an item called a human effigy that restores your humanity. But before they send you on your way, the Golden Girls warn you you're gonna die. A lot.
Over and over again.
You ain't kidding, sister. Not one bit.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again.
Soon after, the undead arrives in the serene land of Majula, which acts as your home base in Dark Souls 2. Our hero meets a mysterious woman known as the Emerald Herald, who pledges to help you throughout your journey. She'll be the one you go to level up your character. She informs you that in order to break your curse, you'll have to seek out the King of Drangleic. But before you can take him on, you'll have to hunt down the 4 great souls from 4 big baddies located in the furthest reaches of the kingdom. With the task of eliminating the Dark Souls equivalent of Robot Master's clear way set before them, the undead's descent into hell is just beginning. Like I said, the story of Dark Souls 2 is pretty light in the plot department. It's got a rich and interesting world and plenty of interesting themes, but as far as actual story goes, it leaves a lot to the imagination. Make no mistake though, it does have some narrative qualities. They're just presented in extremely subtle ways that can be easily missed. Talking to NPCs and reading item descriptions will help you to understand the events that occurred in Drangleic's past. But even if you exhaust every character's dialogue tree and read every single item description there is in the game, you still might be at a loss as to what the hell's actually going on. However, this cryptic way of storytelling is fine. After all, the gameplay is far more important. But there are a lot of players out there who adore the deeply buried lore of the Souls series despite how hard it can be to uncover. You know, I guess it does make sense that people who enjoy getting their asses kicked by gameplay would also delight in having to put in lots of hours and work for a story. You want your fairy tale? You better sweat for it, baby. Like a 1980s spin class. Music and all. Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin excels at making you feel isolated and depressed while you play. The world of Drangleic is so huge that it can sometimes make you feel a bit small and insignificant. It's so big, in fact, that meeting an NPC in-game is akin to 2 ships passing one another in an ocean. You get really excited and relieved to have found a fellow traveler, but deep down you know that partnership is fleeting. You know that you'll have to leave your new friend and make your journey alone. These seemingly negative feelings are carefully crafted within the players over time to make those players' eventual triumphs over their hardships all the more satisfying, and you can witness the tools that Dark Souls 2 uses to manipulate the players' feelings all over the place. Compared to the original release of Dark Souls 2, and especially the older titles in the Souls series, Scholar of the First Sin has received a pretty damn good facelift. Playing on the current generation consoles lets you play in super crispy 1080p, while running at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second. Without a doubt, this is the sexiest looking Soul titles in the family. And how does Scholar of the First Sin utilize its brilliant visuals? Why, to make its player feel as uneasy as possible, of course. The game is packed full of extremely varied locales, but one thing that they all have in common is that they all engender a sense of dread when you visit them. Some are more obvious, like the dusty, dank dungeons of the Lost Bastille, while other seemingly cheerful locations, such as the Forest of Fallen Giants, keeps players on edge by juxtaposing its verdant woodlands with depressingly crumbling ruins. Every place in Drangleek has a story to tell, and they're all tragedies. If you thought the game's audio would cut you some slack, then you aren't paying attention. This is Dark Souls. During play, there's almost always no music to keep you company. Instead, you're left in silence to ruminate on just how desperate your adventure is. Music is usually reserved for boss fights and when you're back in the safety of Majula. The boss music is always appropriately exciting and bombastic, signifying that yes, you've made it this far, well done. Similar to that of Mr. Bombastic. Put that in there, Mark.
She call me Mr. Bombastic, tell me fantastic, touch me on me back.
The soft tones we are treated to, however, help remind you that when you're there, you're safe. But once again, it's the ambient sounds of Dark Souls 2 that are going to keep you company most of the time. The sound design is just another one of From Software's ways of pushing the players to their limits. Like an encouraging drill sergeant, the game is constantly reminding you that everything is out to kill you, and that you can handle it. Except that one drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket, that guy is just really good at being a dick.
How tall are you, Private?
Sir, 5'9", sir!
5'9". I didn't know they stacked shit that high.
Scholar of the First Sin delivers more of the arduous, diverse action RPG gameplay that the Souls series is known for. You still pick a class at the beginning, which affects which of your character stats are favored over the others. I still prefer tanking it up and serving up tons of melee damage to casting spells, so I went with a knight this time around. No Hogwarts for my character, my dude went to Fight Club instead. It wouldn't be a Souls game without a stamina bar, which depletes every single action that you take. Attacking, blocking, running, dodging, everything you do will tax just a little bit of your stamina. It's just another way that Dark Souls 2 reinforces the theme of every action having a consequence. Yeah, your stamina bar may refill quickly, but it's best to keep an eye on it at all times, lest you be caught with your proverbial pants down when confronted by an enemy. But just in case you take a hit or two, which you will, you can always rely on your trusty bottle of Sunny D, also known as the Estus Flask, to cure what ails ya. Speaking of healing, the Souls series ever-present bonfires are back to provide a little slice of home when you're on the go in the kingdom of Drangleek. Resting at a bonfire still refills your life bar, cures any of your status ailments, refreshes your item's durability, and re-ups your supply of Sunny D. But this time around, you're unable to level up at any old bonfire. You've got to travel all the way back to Majula and have a chat with the Emerald Herald for that. Just like any RPG worth its salt, Dark Souls 2 features a plethora of weapons, armor, and magic spells to choose from, and you can still combine them in just about any way you can imagine. 2 swords, 1 sword and a shield, pyromancy glove and wizard staff, it's all good. You can have it your way, just like Burger King. Burger King. You can have it your way, like Burger King. I'm saying Burger King a lot so you can give me money, but I really hate Burger King a lot. Covenants are still around in the Scholar of the First Sin, which lets you further customize your experience by joining a cult full of like-minded individuals. Have you always felt the urge to protect others from injustice and harm? There's a covenant for that. Have you often said to yourself, I'd love to help make someone else's Dark Souls playthrough tough as hell? There's a covenant for that too. Have you ever felt like a Ninja Turtle trapped in a human body and felt compelled to worship a giant rat? Well, there's even a covenant for that. Believe it or not. And of course, no Souls game would be complete without, well, souls. They're still your experience points / currency, and you still get them from slaying enemies and finding items. Yes, you still lose all your souls when you die. Yes, you still lose them all permanently if you die on the way to reclaim them. And no, the game doesn't care about you. Speaking of that sweet, sweet embrace of death, dying is a little bit different in Dark Souls 2 this time around. Instead of your humanity having a numeric value tied to it, you're either human or undead. No gray area in between there. That's it. Every time you die, though, you'll lose a little bit of your maximum health and your character will appear more and more decayed. The only way to reclaim your lost max health and to stop yourself from looking like a backup dancer in Thriller is to use one of those human effigies. Thanks Wire Cage baby. Scholar of the First Sin may technically be an action RPG, but if you attempt to play it like your average brawler and button mash your way to victory, you will quickly be put in your place. The combat in the Souls series is a lot like boxing, and Dark Souls 2 is no exception. If you want to win your fights, you'll often have to patiently dance in and out of your opponent's maximum range. It's usually only when they've swung at you and whiffed that you're able to safely counterattack. Becoming skilled at recognizing when you have the advantage and when your opponent has the advantage is still critical to success. Every enemy type in the game moves differently and has their own set of strengths and weaknesses. So, carefully observing their patterns and efficiently punishing them is the best way to avoid getting bopped. In addition to your quick strikes and heavy swings, you still have the option of landing a back attack on your foes if you maneuver yourself behind them. Landing that critical hit is one of the best ways in the game to net yourself big damage. The parry technique also makes a return, providing a high-risk, high-reward option that leads to even more big damage. And if an enemy is turtling up behind their shield, you can always perform a guard break to open their ass up for big damage. I love it!
Live and let die.
But even more important than hitting your enemies is being able to dodge their attacks, which is where rolling comes into play. Now, being able to quickly roll a short distance in any direction while enjoying a small window of invulnerability is still a godsend, even in Dark Souls 2. A lot of the time, blocking just won't cut it, so you've got to roll out. Now, when it comes to the enemies in the game, it's like a Dungeons & Dragons bestiary came to life and spontaneously decided as a whole that they all hate you. I'm talking zombie soldiers, enchanted knights, shrouded priestesses, and giant lion men. They're all here to kill you. It's worth repeating that every enemy is different from one another, and that their behaviors and patterns should all be studied very carefully to avoid having your butt cheeks handed to you. And then we have the bosses. These dudes are one of the most iconic aspects of the Souls series, and for good reason. They'll just casually crush your spirits and gladly gouge your determination if you're not careful. They've got tons of health, they do massive damage, and they've got the most unorthodox fighting patterns in the game. But even though the bosses can be some of the most grueling fights in the game, they also tend to be some of the most imaginative, impressive, and fun. Every boss will push your skills to the limit, but ultimately, they all have their own weaknesses. In all honesty, some of the bosses in Dark Souls 2 aren't even that difficult. I soloed every single one of them, but just getting to them sometimes can be backbreaking. If you get defeated by a boss, you don't just get to immediately restart the boss fight. Oh no, that would be way too easy and way too nice of the game. Oh no, instead, you've got to trek all the way back to the boss from the last bonfire you visited, oftentimes through hordes of vicious enemies you've already defeated. You gotta kill them again. When it comes to the fiends of Drangleek murdering you over and over again, it's a team effort. Team effort! Now, although Dark Souls 2 may be primarily a single-player experience that excels at making you feel isolated, it does have a few multiplayer aspects that really set it apart from the other games. For example, you're still able to compose short messages for other Dark Souls 2 players and leave them in specific places around Drangleek. And of course, you can still read messages that others have left you. You can still witness the grisly deaths of your fellow adventurers by touching their pools of blood, and you can still see the phantoms of other players running all over the place. These little pieces of subtle player-to-player interactivity help to strike a great balance between reminding players that they're not entirely alone in the world of Dark Souls, and reinforcing the ever-present and sense of dread and isolation that's prevalent in the game. In short, the only evidence you get that there are others out there like you are faint echoes of events having long since passed. The multiplayer doesn't stop there. Using summon signs, you're still able to summon actual players to help you through parts of the game. And just like in the past Soul games, summoning specific people to help you, like your friends, is still ridiculously complicated and difficult. And yes, PvP is still present and accounted for. Yes, there's nothing quite like being invaded by another human being who's there simply to just ruin your shit. Let's put a bow in the gameplay section right here. Nothing in Dark Souls 2 is free. Everything you do has a price and a consequence. You're more than able to load yourself up with the best armor and weapons in the game, but you can bet that your movement speed and dodging abilities will suffer if you do. I mean, sure, you could invest tons of souls into improving your vitality stat so you can effectively carry all that gear, but then some of your other stats like strength or intelligence will begin to taper off. Even simply running drains your stamina, so it's important to consider the effects of every choice you make. And it's that aspect of Scholar of the First Sin that sets it and the rest of the Soul series apart from so many other games. The majority of the growth that happens while you play isn't that of your playable character, but mostly of you, the player. Dark Souls 2 requires you to bend and change yourself to meet the various challenges that it presents. It stubbornly stands in your way, refusing to shift, asking you, "Yo! What you gonna do, bitch? You gonna get in my way? You bitch." And with so many different ways to play this game, there are a lot of different ways to answer that question. But for me, the answer is smashing. Smashing everything with my giant sword. Yeah, bitch, here's my sword. I'm gonna smash you with it. God, that feels good. Take you down, bish. Having slain Drangleek's 4 big bad bosses and claimed their great souls, our undead hero is ready to confront the king of Drangleek and end the curse. After fighting our way through Drangleek's castle guards, our protagonist encounters Queen Nashandra, who informs us that the king is in another castle. Pulling a Mario there, eh, buddy? Well, actually, he's more in an undead crypt, but who cares? The queen claims that King Vandrick is the one who is responsible for the fall of Drangleek all those years ago, and then she not so subtly implies that you should go and get your Regicide Merit Badge. However, after encountering King Vandrick in his pitiful, hulled state, it's revealed that the queen was actually the one who sealed Drangleek's doom. Ages ago, she apparently convinced the king to travel to the land of giants and steal their source of power, hoping to incite the war between the two nations. But by the time King Vendrick realized her treachery, the giants had already invaded Drangleek and begun running amok. With the true culprit revealed, it's up to the undead to take her down. And the undead is us. Let's take her down. Let's do her stuff. That's an Independence Day reference in case you didn't get that. In a bit of an anticlimax, the final fight with the Queen is one of the easier boss fights in the game. Although she's got some unique and interesting attacks, she's kind of a pushover compared to some of the other badasses in Dark Souls 2. She'll begin the fight by summoning and surrounding herself with a few fonts of dark energy. If you get anywhere near these things, you'll rapidly start losing your maximum health. Keeping far away from the queen is the best course of action. The only ranged attack she really uses is a heavily telegraphed dark beam that's incredibly simple to dodge. And if you've got some ranged attack of some sort, you'll be able to bring her down without much hassle. Eventually, she'll get tired of eating your magic and arrows and come mix it up with you in a melee range fight. But since her swipes with her bone scythe are so simple to avoid, she's not so much to worry about up close either. Just as long as you manage to avoid the dark, bubbling fountains of energy she creates, she'll be down before you can say Burger King. Burger King. I still hate Burger King. With the queen defeated, the little undead that could approaches the vacant throne of Drangleek and takes a seat. Much like the rest of the Soul series, the ending is pretty ambiguous. There's really no way to tell if the undead chose to sacrifice themselves, relinquishing the flame, or if they chose to let the flame simply die out, turning the undead into our new Dark Lord. But we can be sure about one thing: our dude here earned their seat in the giant stone lazy boy. Take a breather, buddy. You've earned it. So if you've seen our episode on Dark Souls 1, you'll know one important thing from that episode. There's no completion bonus. And guess what? This time around, again, there's not really a completion bonus. This is Dark Souls, where pain is its own reward. If you manage to collect every single achievement, the only things that you've really gained are a massive and well-deserved sense of accomplishment, and a stress-induced, significantly reduced lifespan. Congratulations! Dark Souls 2 doesn't really include any pre-designated collectibles outside of the ones that are necessary for grabbing an achievement or two. In other words, spending all your time on this game. But that's just me. Am I right? No? Okay, internet. However, beating the game will unlock New Game Plus mode, which lets you play the whole game over again with just about every one of your weapons, items, and spells that you've acquired during your first playthrough. And just as you'd probably expect, the enemies in New Game Plus are tougher and more plentiful. Thankfully, they do yield more souls than normal when defeated, and some even reward you with unique items when they die. And if you've completely lost your mind, because you know you're the completionist and you've been doing this show for 4 years and you complete a game a week every single freaking week, and you want to prove to everyone out there that you've got something to prove for beating the games that you do, hashtag buff boys, hashtag cry boys, you can continue to beat the game over and over and over again, increasing the difficulty each and every time until you get to New Game Plus 7. New Game Plus 7. Guess what's at the end of New Game Plus 7? Absolutely nothing. Sorry, I forgot. The internet Dark Souls. Yay! It's a masochist's dream. One of the coolest parts about Scholar of the First Sin is that it fully implements the 3 DLC packs from the original release of Dark Souls 2. Known as the Lost Crown Trilogy, these extra areas offer a great deal of content and can be tackled before or after you beat the main campaign. The Crown of the Sunken King takes you to the underground region of Shulva, while the Crown of the Old Iron King lets you travel to the lava-filled Brum Tower, and the Crown of the Ivory King takes you to the place of the Icy Kingdom of Frozen Aleem Lois. These 3 areas all offer diverse locales and cool gameplay elements that aren't found in the main campaign. And on top of that, they also contain brand new spells, items, and weapons. Now, this version of the game also includes a special NPC named Aldea, who, as it turns out, is actually the eponymous Scholar of the First Sin. After meeting Aldea in different spots throughout Drank Leak, you can choose to have a boss fight with it during the game's endgame. Defeating it actually gives you the option of an alternate ending to Dark Souls 2. You can once again choose to take the throne, or you can choose to abandon the throne altogether. If you choose the latter, then the undead exits the throne room and walks off towards the light, into the unknown. That is, until the darkness consumes them. This alternate ending, however, manages to even be more open-ended than the original. And that's saying something. I'm actually impressed. I'm impressed that the game that's really cryptic and weird and elusive still happens to do that in the DLC. Dark Souls 2 doesn't give a shit about you. Doesn't care about how hard of a day you've had or how long it's been since you've played a video game regularly. It's not here to hold your hand. And you know what? That's pretty damn refreshing for me. In a way, Scholar of the First Sin is reminiscent of the old school games of the NES era. Many of those games were balls hard, but whereas the difficulty was more often than not a product of not so good game design, the difficulty in Dark Souls 2 is deliberate, methodical, and well implemented. With its unforgiving learning curve and cryptic storytelling, the Souls games aren't for everyone. Many of them find them off-putting, and I find myself somewhere in the middle. But frankly, there are already a ton of games out there on the other end of the spectrum. Today, games that ease the player into their experiences are a dime a dozen. I think part of the reason why the Souls series is so beloved is that it scratches a lot of players' itches that tend to get neglected. In a nutshell, the bigger the hardship, the greater the sense of accomplishment. And with the amount of hardships in Scholar of the First Sin, it has the potential to make you feel great. And great feelings are what games should be all about. Now, once again, if you expect yourself to be successful at Dark Souls 2, you'll have to allow yourself to be changed to meet the challenges that it proposes. Your best weapons in this fight are critical thinking, a good attitude, and patience. And I mean a lot of patience. Take it from someone who completes games for a living. Patience is a motherfucking virtue. This is my final playtime at the end of this review. I do want to add my final thoughts though, as I didn't really talk about this very much. Dark Souls 2 is a sequel, and it exhibits a lot of the same qualities that Dark Souls 1 has. So in terms of the evolution of gameplay, there isn't really too much. This is clearly a situation of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Cause let's be real, Dark Souls 2 is still hard as hell. Now at the end of the day, Dark Souls 2 reminds me of a stepdad that you don't really get along with. He seems kind of stern and harsh when you first meet him, and you might even grow into resent or hate him, Steve. But it isn't until some time has passed and you've grown a bit older and wiser that you can look back and realize that your stepdad was just trying to make you into a responsible, strong person. Except you can't trick me, Steve! And that's what the Scholar of the First Sin does. It doesn't turn your character into a buff boy, it turns you into a buff boy.
Dark Souls 2 stays true to the status quo of the Souls series. Personally, I found Dark Souls 1 more difficult, but Souls 2 is more refined in ways I'm very grateful for. I gotta say, I feel bad for the early adopters here, because the Scholar of the First Sin is a revelation of a game. The graphics are smooth, the execution is solid across the board, and the PS4 and the Xbox One and PC versions just scream with cleanness. Little Purell for ya. Honestly, being a completionist, Dark Souls 2 wasn't that bad, but you don't get anything for completing it. I mean, New Game Plus 7 is unnecessary, and you'll get bored with the game at that point. That is, unless you're a huge Dark Souls junkie. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my completionist rating of finish it.
Finish it!
500,000 subscribers. 145 games completed, 4 YouTube channels that are entertaining masses all around the world, and I'm still right here having a great time. Thank you for believing in me, in my team, in all the hard work that we do here. That's all the time we've got for today, guys, so please, today, I want all of you to do something different, and do this for you. Take your favorite game, maybe grab your best friend or a family member, turn off your computer, turn off your phone, your electronic devices other than the one that you're going to be using right now, and complete it. And I guarantee you're going to have fun. I love you all. Have a great night.